The Lockdown Hotel Diaries. My name is Isla. This story happened right in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, at a time when the whole world seemed to stop and my own career was just beginning. I was lucky, graduated from Cornell's prestigious hospitality program with honors. Because of that, even with no real-world experience and being fairly average-looking, I landed a job at one of the most famous and historic five-star hotels in Boston. Working at such a legendary place was a great source of pride. The first 6 months were perfect, but in early 2020, the pandemic hit. The city of Boston went into lockdown. Hotels, restaurants, and bars were all ordered to close. But our hotel, being the temporary home for many stranded international guests, received a special directive. To ensure safety, all essential staff had to adhere to a 3 on-site policy. Eat on-site, sleep on-site, and work on-site. No one was allowed to leave the hotel to prevent community spread. At first, we were all anxious. The staff dormitories were already cramped. How could they possibly house all of us? But management had a solution. They decided to open up a special floor of the hotel known as the reserve floor, which was typically only used during major events when the hotel was overbooked. Hearing that we'd be living in 5-star VIP rooms, we were all ecstatic. But that joy didn't last long. My room had 4 of us girls. For fun, we made a deal that each day one person would be the designated housekeeper for the other 3, like a game of playing royalty. I lost the first round of rock, paper, scissors. That day, after my roommates had gone down for their shifts, I was cleaning the room by myself. As I worked, I heard a soft knock at the door. Knock, knock, knock. Thinking my friends had finished early, I went to open it. But the lavish, carpeted hallway was completely empty. I went back to my chores. A few minutes later, the knocking came again, more insistent this time. I opened the door again, and again, no one was there. I started to get annoyed. As I was bending over to smooth out a bedsheet, I felt someone brush past me from behind. They moved so close that they bumped me, causing me to stumble and fall onto the bed. I quickly sat up and saw a figure in a thin silk nightgown dart into the bathroom, slamming the door shut. "Trish, is that you?" I called out, thinking it was one of my roommates. "It's the middle of the day. What are you doing in a nightgown?" There was no reply. Then, the bathroom door creaked open on its own. The room inside was empty. At that moment, a chill ran down my spine. I quickly finished my cleaning and rushed down to the kitchen where my friends were. All 3 of them confirmed they had been downstairs the entire time. No one had gone up to the room. Terrified of being seen as paranoid, or worse, losing my job during a pandemic, I decided to keep the incident to myself. A few days later, it was Trish's turn to clean the room. That afternoon, while the rest of us were in the lobby, we heard a blood-curdling scream from upstairs. We all rushed up. Trish was standing in the middle of the hallway, pale and trembling, pointing toward the fire escape at the far end. She had a knife, Trish stammered. She told us that while she was in the room, she had also heard a knock. When she opened the door, she saw a woman dressed in a black silk nightgown and with a classic 1920s hairstyle. The woman glided past her and walked toward the end of the hall. Curious, Trish followed, but as she got closer, She saw to her horror that the woman was holding a small stiletto and blood was dripping from her hand onto the carpet. Before disappearing into the fire escape, the woman turned to look at Trish, her heavily made-up face devoid of emotion, and asked in a cold voice, "Honey, have you seen Mr. Enzo anywhere?" Later, when we asked some of the hotel's veteran employees about it, they told us one of the hotel's secrets. During the Prohibition era of the 1920s, the hotel was a notorious hotspot for the mafia. Legend has it that a mob boss named Enzo was murdered in the hotel by his own mistress, a showgirl. She then took her own life. It was very likely that the ghost we encountered was her, forever searching for her enemy. After that incident, we were moved to a different room, but my story wasn't over. A few months later, due to staffing shortages, my company had a staff loan agreement with another modern hotel located on the Boston Harbor. I was assigned to work there. This time, I got a room all to myself. It was a beautiful, modern room with a window overlooking the harbor. But as soon as I checked in, I noticed something odd. On top of the mini fridge were 4 bottles of water arranged messily, one in each corner. Being obsessed with tidiness, I arranged them into a neat, straight line before I went to shower and change into my uniform. But when I came out of the bathroom just 5 minutes later, the 4 water bottles were back in their original messy positions. The next day, when I got back from work, something even stranger had happened. The bra I had left hanging neatly in the closet was now hanging on the outside doorknob of my room. Humiliated and scared, I quickly snatched it inside. But as I bent down, the 4 water bottles on the fridge suddenly fell to the floor, one by one, as if someone had deliberately pushed them. I was terrified and backed away, intending to flee the room. But as I did, an invisible force from behind shoved me hard, sending me sprawling onto the floor inside the room. I fell, and when I looked up, I saw him. A tall man of foreign descent, perhaps Indian, with a thick beard, was standing at the doorway, still wearing a medical face mask. His eyes were wide, staring at me. 2 seconds later, the hotel room door slammed shut. My heart pounded in my chest. I tried to open the door, but it was stuck. From behind me, I heard the sound of the plastic water bottles being crushed, water fizzing and sputtering out. I screamed, "Leave me alone! I'll leave right now!" The moment I said it, everything went back to normal. I was able to open the door, and I ran for my life down to the lobby. Later that night, I did a search online. An old news article popped up. Just as I had feared, a businessman from India, a tourist, had tragically passed away from COVID-19 inside that very hotel during the first lockdown. After that night, I resigned. I couldn't take it anymore. 2 hotels, 2 different worlds of ghosts. One, a spirit from a distant violent past. The other, a spirit from a modern lonely tragedy. No matter where you go, it seems pain and injustice always find a way to linger. Never pick up a beautiful hitchhiker. This story takes place in China. My name is May, and this is a tale my mother told me from the winding, misty mountain roads of Sichuan province along the G-18 National Highway. Our family runs a small restaurant there, a rest stop for the truck drivers making the long haul across the country. It's a special kind of life, We're open almost 24/7. Growing up there, I learned to read the drivers. The ones hauling dry goods are patient. They'll finish their meal, have a smoke, and chat for a while. But the ones carrying frozen goods are different. They are always in a hurry. They eat like their lives depend on it, throw the money on the counter, and rush back to their rigs because every minute they're delayed, their cargo loses value. Over time, we got a group of regulars. Around noon, 6 or 7 trucks would pull in together, almost as if they'd planned it. They became friends, and our little diner became their meeting spot. In that group, no one was more full of life than Lao Wang. He was a cheerful, generous, middle-aged man, always laughing and telling loud jokes. Lao Wang was the soul of the group. And then one day, he stopped coming. For 2 months, the group still came, but Lao Wang's chair was always empty. One afternoon, as I was serving them, I finally worked up the courage to ask, "Uncles, why haven't I seen Lao Wang lately?" The table went quiet. The men exchanged worried glances before one of them spoke. They began to piece together the bits of gossip they had heard. They said that on one of his night runs, he had become entangled with something. In our culture, we believe some ghosts don't just haunt a place, they can attach themselves to a person, slowly draining away their life force, their vital energy. It started, they said, when Lao Wang's wife got pregnant. To earn extra money, he began taking night shifts. On one of those trips, while driving through a foggy mountain pass notorious for fatal accidents, he saw a stunningly beautiful young woman waving for a ride. Taking pity on her, he pulled over and let her in. But when he drove into a small town with streetlights, he glanced over, and the passenger seat was empty. After that, Lao Wang still visited the diner a few times, recounting the story with a look of terror on his face. But then, he began to change. His wife called his friends, crying, saying that Lao Wang had become a stranger. He rarely came home anymore. And on the few nights he did, he would call out another woman's name in his sleep, Lian Hua, Lian Hua. The owner of the truck yard where Lao Wang parked his rig also told a chilling story. He said one night on his rounds, he saw the light on in Lao Wang's cabin. When he looked inside, he saw Lao Wang sitting there alone, but he was turned toward the empty passenger seat, talking, laughing, and even reaching out his arms to embrace and caress the empty air. And then Lao Wang stopped coming to our diner altogether, until one day. It was a slow afternoon. I was resting when I saw Lao Wang's familiar truck pull up, but he didn't stop at our place. He pulled into the rival diner across the road. I saw him get out. He looked terribly thin and pale. He walked around the front of his truck, opened the passenger door, and made a gentlemanly gesture as if helping someone down. A few minutes later, Auntie Chen, the owner of the other diner, came running out brandishing a broom. She was screaming at the top of her lungs, and we could hear her clearly from across the road. "Get out! Don't you dare bring that unclean thing into my restaurant. Get out!" It wasn't just a fit of anger. In our tradition, a broom is sometimes used to sweep away bad luck and evil spirits. Lao Wang argued for a moment, then dejectedly got back in his truck and drove off. 3 days later, he came to our diner. I saw his truck park out front. I watched as he got out, walked around, opened the passenger door, and again tenderly escorted an invisible person from the truck. He walked into our diner, nodded at me, and went straight to a corner table. He pulled out a chair for his companion before sitting down opposite her. 2 bowls of noodles as usual, he called out. My heart began to pound. My mother, despite her fear, signaled for me to bring him the food. I placed the 2 bowls on the table. Lao Wang took a pair of chopsticks and placed them neatly by the empty spot. He then picked a piece of meat from his bowl and placed it into the empty one. Then he began to eat, all the while talking and laughing with the empty chair, occasionally reaching out to gently stroke the hair of someone who wasn't there. Everyone else in the diner watched in silence. Looking at him, I understood what the other drivers meant. He looked hollowed out, as if his very life force was being consumed. The ghost was feeding on him. He finished his meal, paid for both bowls, and then politely went outside to open the truck door for his wife before driving away. I went to clear the table. Lao Wang's bowl was empty, but the other bowl, the one with just a single piece of meat in it, was spoiled. The broth had turned slightly cloudy and had a sour, rotten smell. It's a common belief that food given to a spirit will spoil unnaturally fast, as the ghost consumes its spiritual essence, leaving behind only the physical shell. After that day, our business suddenly dried up. For 4 straight days, almost no one came. My mother grew worried, saying that Lao Wang had brought a dark presence with him. A few days later, Lao Wang's trucker friends stopped by. This time, their faces were heavy with grief. They brought terrible news. Lao Wang was dead. The night before, he had driven his truck straight into a cliff face and was killed instantly. The site of the crash was the very same foggy mountain pass where he had picked up the woman named Lian Hua. When she heard the news, my mother quietly went into the back room and came out with a stack of money. She handed it to one of the drivers. "Take this. Consider it our contribution to the funeral," she said. "When you perform the rites, please burn some incense and spirit money for both of them. And please say a prayer to that young woman. Ask her to move on and to stop plaguing our business." She wasn't just offering condolences. In our culture, we believe that burning joss paper, spirit money, sends it to the afterlife. It provides for the spirits so they won't be hungry or poor and will leave the living in peace. It was an offering for both Lao Wang and the lonely spirit who had claimed him. The driver nodded grimly. After they left, our diner slowly began to fill with customers again, as if nothing had ever happened. The Guardian Biker. This story comes from Tyler. Tyler said when he was about 3 years old, his family lived on the outskirts of Philadelphia, in a rural area near some old quarries and factories. His house was right on the road, only about 15 or 20 feet from his front gate to the county road itself. It was an old, poorly paved road, torn up by quarry trucks and semi-trucks, and riddled with potholes. In the rainy season, it was a mess of mud and puddles. From the time he was little, Tyler was what they called a runner. He learned to walk early, and as soon as he could walk, he ran. Anytime someone in the house even moved toward the door, he'd run after them, wanting to go. By the time he was 2 or 3, he stopped asking. He'd just silently follow them. A few times, the neighbors had to yell, "Tyler's in the road!" His parents would ground him, but it never stuck. That evening, the whole family was gathered around the TV, watching Wheel of Fortune. A relative came over to watch with them and accidentally left the front gate open. The family was totally focused on the final puzzle when they heard a terrified scream from the street. Mr. Miller, Mrs. Miller, Tyler, the boy fell in a pothole. He's passed out. The whole family looked up. It was Jake, the kid from next door. Jake was a biker, obsessed with custom motorcycles and known for illegal street racing on the weekends. He was wild, but around the neighborhood, he was always polite. Jake was standing at their gate, no bike, just in jeans and a shirt, waving his arms frantically. Tyler crawled into the road. He fell, hit his head, he's bleeding, he's passed out. Go get him. The family, horrified, suddenly realized Tyler was gone. They all scrambled out the door. Here's the strange part. If Jake saw the neighbor's kid fall, why didn't he just pick him up? Why did he run to get help? When they ran out the gate and turned right, about 20 yards down the road, they saw the horrific scene. Tyler, 3 years old, had wandered out, walked down the dark road, and fallen into a massive water-filled pothole. He had hit his head on the pavement, and he was floating, unconscious in the muddy water. At that exact second, his parents heard a diesel engine roar. A semi-truck was bearing down on them, moving fast. It was dark, no streetlights. The truck driver couldn't possibly see a small child in a puddle. Tyler's mother screamed. Tyler's uncle sprinted into the middle of the road, waving his arms. The truck slammed on its brakes, horn blaring, and skidded, clipping the uncle and throwing him several feet. The truck stopped, its massive grill just 2 yards from the pothole. If his uncle hadn't sacrificed himself, Tyler would have been crushed. The family grabbed Tyler. He woke up screaming. His parents immediately rushed him to the nearest urgent care to stitch up the gash on his head. About an hour later, Tyler was stitched up and sleeping off the anesthetic. On the drive home, his mother said to his father, "Honey, let's stop at the liquor store and grab a case of beer." "What for?" "To thank Jake. If he hadn't warned us, our son..." Tyler's dad nodded. "Yeah, we have to thank him, but I'm still pissed at him. He saw the kid fall. Why didn't he just pick him up? He just ran to yell. That truck almost killed our son." They stopped, bought the beer, and drove home. The road was pitch black. About a mile from their house, Tyler's dad said, "Look, there's Jake up ahead. I'll just pull up next to him and give him the beer now. Then we can get Tyler to bed." Tyler's mom, holding him in the back, leaned forward. "Where? I don't see anyone." "Right there, in front of us. That's his custom bike." Tyler's dad sped up, trying to catch him, but he said, it was strange. The road was full of potholes, but Jake's motorcycle just glided forward, perfectly straight, never swerving, never bouncing. And the strangest part, he couldn't hear the loud, obnoxious pipes that Jake was so proud of. Tyler's dad kept chasing him, but Jake always stayed about 10 yards ahead. Tyler's mom was getting bounced around in the back. "Stop it," she yelled. "You're going to make us crash. Just go home. We can give his parents the beer." Tyler's dad slowed down. The moment he slowed, Jake's bike up ahead also slowed down. It stayed exactly 10 yards ahead. "The hell is wrong with this kid?" Tyler's dad muttered. They followed each other like this all the way to Jake's house. Tyler's dad saw Jake's bike turn right into the driveway, meaning the gate was open. He pulled in right behind him. Screech! He slammed on the brakes. Jake's driveway gate was shut and locked. "What the hell?" Tyler's dad said. "I just saw him pull in. How'd he close the gate that fast?" He got out, carrying the case of beer, and called out, "Mr. Henderson! Jake! Hey, Jake!" Jake's parents came running out of the house. "Miller, what's wrong?" "Oh, nothing. Tyler had an accident." But Jake saw it and warned us. "We just bought this beer to thank him." Jake's parents looked at each other, and their faces fell. "Miller, what are you talking about?" "Jake, he just pulled in. Tell him to come." "Oh my God, Miller!" Jake's mom burst into tears. He isn't home. He went street racing on the interstate this afternoon." Tyler's dad froze. "He's not home? I'm serious. I just followed Jake. I saw him pull in." "Look," his dad said. "His bike's not here." Tyler's dad looked. The driveway was empty. He was totally confused. "That's weird." "Well, here, this is for him. Tell him we said thanks." Tyler's dad drove home. He'd just gotten inside, and his wife was putting Tyler to bed when they heard terrible screaming from Jake's house. They saw a police car pull up to the Hendersons' driveway. Tyler's dad ran back over. He got there just as Mr. Henderson collapsed on his porch. The cop had just delivered the news. "Oh my God, Miller!" Mr. Henderson yelled out, grabbing his neighbor. "It's Jake! He was racing, hit the median. He's dead. He died at 6:30 p.m. Tyler's dad turned to stone. He did the math. Dead at 6:30? Then, who was at our gate screaming at 7:30? And who did I just follow for a mile at 9 p.m.? "Miller," Mr. Henderson grabbed his arm. You gotta drive me. Drive me to the county general hospital. I have to get my boy." Tyler's dad didn't say a word. He just ran, got his car, and drove Mr. Henderson to the hospital. On the dark road, Tyler's dad's mind was racing. He realized Jake's ghost must have flown home the moment he died. He got there just in time to see Tyler fall, and he warned them. He was deep in thought when he heard the engine. Rumble, roar, vroom! A motorcycle was coming up fast from behind. Tyler's dad, furious, looked over, ready to yell. The bike flew past them. It was Jake, on his bike wearing the same clothes. As he passed, Jake turned his head, looked right at Tyler's dad, and he smiled. A simple, kind, hey neighbor smile. Then he gassed it and vanished into the darkness. Tyler's dad slammed on the brakes, almost crashing. "What are you doing, Miller?" Mr. Henderson yelled from the passenger seat. "Nothing. Just a pothole." Tyler's dad kept driving, but he was whispering, "Jake, stop, kid. I'm taking your dad to get you. Thank you for saving Tyler. I promise I'll help your dad with the funeral." Ever since, every year on the anniversary of Jake's death, Tyler's dad makes him put flowers on Jake's grave to thank the man who saved his life. Growing up, Tyler's running trait never faded. At 21, he was a student in Chicago, saving every penny he made to go on motorcycle trips. He had an old Kawasaki KLR 650, and he'd added 2 auxiliary lights, one white, one amber for fog. One time, he was on a solo trip in Denver, Colorado. He was supposed to head back to Chicago, but on his second afternoon, his college buddies called. "Hey, we're in Moab, Utah. You're in Denver? That's close. Ride over and party with us." Tyler was stoked. Denver to Moab was just a few hours. He checked out of his motel immediately. Around 5 p.m., he was heading up Loveland Pass in the Rocky Mountains. A cold rain started and the fog rolled in. Worse, Tyler hit a patch of mud on the road from a construction truck and laid his bike down. He wasn't hurt, but when he picked the bike up, both his expensive auxiliary lights were smashed. All he had left was the dim yellow stock halogen bulb on his old bike, and the fog was getting thick. A normal person would turn back. Tyler was reckless. "My friends are waiting. I'll just go slow." He crawled along at 10:15 Amir, seeing almost nothing. After 15 minutes, he saw a light up ahead, a single red taillight and 2 reflective strips on a jacket. Another biker, about 15-20 yards ahead. Tyler sighed in relief. It's an unwritten rule of bikers. You follow. He'd just tail this guy through the pass. He kept his distance, just focusing on the red light. The rider ahead was smooth, taking every curve perfectly. Tyler was able to speed up to 30-40 mph. He was following when he saw the rider ahead begin to lean into a right-hand curve. Tyler also shifted his weight, preparing to lean right. Slam. Tyler felt a massive jolt, as if someone had kicked the left side of his bike's tail, and he briefly heard a familiar gruff voice yell in his ear, "Not that way, you idiot!" The bike snapped upright, wobbling violently. Tyler panicked, hit the brakes, and blinked. He looked up. The red taillight and the reflective strips were gone. He slowed to a crawl, moving forward, and his heart stopped. The curve was a blind hairpin turn to the left, not the right. If he had leaned right, as the Ghost Rider did, he would have flown straight off the cliff. Tyler was terrified, but thought, he must have just been going too fast. He lost me. He kept crawling. 2 to 3 minutes later, he saw the red light again. It was up ahead, going slow, as if waiting for him. Tyler started following again. He saw the rider lean into a left-hand curve. Tyler started to lean left. Slam! Another jolt to his tail, snapping the bike upright. He slammed on his brakes. The light was gone. He crept forward. The actual curve was to the right. This happened 5 or 6 times. Every time Tyler tried to follow the ghost, an invisible force, which he now believed was Jake, would knock his bike back, saving him from flying off the mountain. Tyler realized, that thing ahead of me, it's trying to kill me. He stopped following it and just crawled on his own. It took him 45 minutes to get off the pass. He pulled into a truck stop at the bottom, shaking. He bought a Red Bull, then went to wash his bike. The mud from his crash was caked all over the tail. He borrowed a hose and started spraying it. Under the bright floodlights of the truck stop, Tyler froze. Pressed into the mud on his back seat, his tail bag, and his rear fender were dozens of small, sooty handprints, as if something had been holding on, trying to pull him back. He went inside and asked the clerk, "Hey, did you see another motorcycle come through here, before me, with reflectors?" The clerk shook his head. "Fog's been thick for an hour, only trucks. You're the first bike I've seen." The clerk looked out at the dark pass. "That Loveland Pass is nasty. A few years back, some biker went right off the edge at one of those hairpins. They say he did it on purpose. Drivers sometimes say they see a single tail light, trying to lead them straight off the cliff. I think he was trying to guide you, son." Tyler finally understood. The red light was a suicidal ghost trying to get him to join. The jolts to his bike, that familiar yell, and maybe all those handprints, were Jake and other spirits holding him back, saving his life over and over. He looked back at the dark pass, said, "Thank you," got on his bike and rode all the way to Moab. The rock-throwing ghost. This story comes from Sean, and it happened back in 2013 when he was 21. Sean was born and raised in San Francisco, but he had a tight-knit Day One crew of friends down in Santa Cruz. The distance isn't too far, about 100 miles or so. Since he was a kid, he'd been making that trip. When he got older and got his own sport bike, he made the trip even more often. Any excuse, a birthday, a holiday, he was on his bike heading to Santa Cruz. Sean admitted he'd driven the mountain pass connecting the two, Highway 17, hundreds of times, but almost always during the day. It wasn't that he was scared of the dark, it just never worked out that way. Until this one time. It was the birthday of his best friend, Marco, down in Santa Cruz. "You gotta come down," Marco said. "Party at my place, bring your new girlfriend, show her off." Sean turned to his girlfriend, a girl from San Francisco who had never been on Highway 17. He promised her, "We'll go down, hang out, eat dinner, and I swear we'll head back by 7 or 8 p.m. No heavy drinking." She agreed. They left that morning, spent the day in Santa Cruz, and went to the party. Sean kept his word, ate some food, stayed sober, and around 9 p.m., he and his girlfriend said their goodbyes and got on the bike to head home. This meant they'd be crossing Highway 17 in the pitch dark. Sean admits he was pretty hot-headed back then. He rode a sport bike, a Gixxer, had a short temper, and was always ready for a fight if someone looked at him wrong. As they started climbing the pass, the air got cold. The highway was dark, winding. His girlfriend held on tight. "Baby, this is creepy. It's so dark and cold." "Don't worry, I've done this drive 100 times, Sean said. "I'll just speed up a bit to get us over the pass faster." He opened the throttle, hitting 50, 60 miles per hour, the engine screaming. They were about 5 or 7 minutes into the climb. Crack, thud, thud. A rock the size of a fist fell from the cliff above, skittering across the asphalt just a few yards in front of their front tire. Sean slammed the brakes, the bike fishtailing. He was terrified. What the hell was that? He looked up. Highway 17 is full of switchbacks, so the road doubled back on itself directly above them. And up there, on that higher tier of the road, he saw it. Under the dim streetlight, a dark silhouette was leaning against the guardrail. "Son of a bitch!" Sean yelled, his blood boiling. "What idiot is throwing rocks? You trying to kill someone?" The shadow seemed to hear him. It turned and started to run off. "Damn it, he ran off," Sean muttered, furious. "Probably just some punk." He revved the engine and started driving again. Because he was on a steep incline and had come to a full stop, he had to downshift. The bike roared, but he was only going 30-40 miles per hour, trying to regain speed. He came around the next hairpin turn. Thud! Thud! Another rock, landing even closer this time. Sean hit the brakes again. He was furious. He looked up and there was the same silhouette, a little closer now. "You son of a bitch," Sean screamed. "You want to play?" The shadow turned and ran again. "You think you can outrun a Gixxer on foot?" Sean roared. His road rage kicked in. "Baby, just let it go," his girlfriend pleaded. "No. I'm going to teach this guy a lesson. He almost killed us." Sean twisted the throttle. The bike screamed, leaping forward as he chased the shadow. He was going to catch him at the next switchback. But something was wrong. He was flying at 50-60 miles per hour, but the shadow was staying 20-30 yards ahead of him, and it still looked like it was just jogging. Honey, his girlfriend started to shake. He's too fast. Baby, I'm scared." That's when Sean realized it too. "Yeah, how is he?" He eased off the gas. The shadow also slowed down. It even turned its head as if looking back at him. "This asshole!" Sean gasped it again. The bike surged, but he couldn't close the distance. The shadow just glided, keeping the same distance. "Baby!" his girlfriend screamed. "That's not a person! He's floating! His feet aren't touching the ground!" Sean saw it too. He came around 2 more curves, and he saw the figure clearly. It wasn't on the road anymore. It was hovering off the side of the cliff. Its back was to the rock face, its body facing the road. It was just floating there in midair, arms hanging limp, legs straight, head slumped to one side. Under the ugly yellow glow of the streetlight, Sean saw its torn white t-shirt and ripped khaki shorts. It was covered in blood. Sean froze. He hit the brakes, and his voice stuck. Did you see?" His girlfriend, suddenly calm and terrified, slapped the side of his helmet. "Go! Sean, don't look! Just go! Now!" Her scream snapped Sean out of it. He twisted the throttle, and the bike took off. But it wasn't done with them. Thud! Another rock landed in front of them. Sean swerved. Thud! Thud! Again and again, at every curve, a rock would fall, just missing their front tire. More than a dozen times, the ghost was toying with them, terrorizing them all the way down the mountain. When they finally reached the bottom of the pass near Los Gatos, they pulled into the first gas station. Sean kicked the kickstand down, and his legs gave out. He just collapsed onto the pavement. Oh my God, baby." His girlfriend slid off the bike, crying and sitting next to him. "I've driven that road 100 times. That's the first time I've ever seen a rock-throwing ghost." They sat there for 15 minutes, shaking until they could breathe again. Sean didn't dare speed the rest of the way home. He drove 30 miles per hour, crawling back to San Francisco. After that, Sean still had to drive Highway 17. But he never ever drove it after 6 p.m. again. He said if you look closely, the whole pass is littered with roadside memorials, those little white crosses. It's where the spirits of the unlucky, the suicides, and the reckless bikers just like him are still trapped. The Girlfriend Under the Bridge. This story comes from Finn. He was about 20 or 21 at the time, living in a small coastal town in Oregon. Finn's house was on the rural side of town, across the bay. When he and his friends wanted to go out, pick up girls, or drink, they had to ride over the town's main bridge, a massive, high steel arch bridge crossing the bay, to get to the busy waterfront area on the other side. Finn and his buddy, Cole, were lumber mill workers. At night, they'd get together, drink beer, drive their beat-up trucks, and generally cause trouble. They had crossed that bridge hundreds of times, never saw a thing. One night, Finn and Cole took their old motorcycles, choppers, to the waterfront to hang out. They hit a sports bar, drank a few beers, and started heading home around 9 or 10 p.m. Getting on the bridge, the two buzzed friends started messing around, revving their engines, jokingly racing to see who'd get across first. Finn's bike was faster, so he pulled ahead. As he neared the peak of the bridge, he saw a girl standing on the railing. She was wearing a crop top and a mini skirt, her hair loose, and she already had one leg over the side, staring down at the dark water. Shit! A jumper! Finn panicked, slamming on his brakes. He skidded to a stop, and just as he was about to yell for Cole, Cole tucked in, drafted behind him, and blew past at full throttle. His friend didn't even stop. "Hey, miss, don't!" Finn ran over. The girl was sobbing. "Leave me alone. My life is over. My parents hate me. Just let me die." Finn was desperate. He tried to talk to her while pulling out his phone to call Cole. The first call went to voicemail. The second, Cole picked up, annoyed. "What? We were racing. Get back to the bridge, now! There's a girl here trying to jump." Cole just laughed on the other end. "Dude, relax. I see lovesick girls crying on that bridge all the time. They're just faking for attention. They never jump. I'm drunk. I'm going home." He hung up. Finn was on his own. He kept trying to talk to the girl. "Miss, please just come down." Luckily, a few other cars saw the commotion and pulled over. Seeing a crowd form, the girl seemed to panic. She climbed back over the railing and sat sobbing on the pavement. People gathered around, comforting her. A few minutes later, she got up and just walked off, back toward the waterfront. Everyone figured she had changed her mind. "Well, guess she's okay now." Finn let out a huge sigh of relief. "I just saved someone's life." He got on his bike and went home. Finn had no idea that after everyone left, the girl had gone back to the bridge. When no one was around, she threw herself into the cold river. A few days passed. The local paper reported that a body had been recovered from the bay, and police were in the middle of an investigation. One night, Finn was at home watching TV when he got a call from an unknown number, another local guy. "Hello? Are you Cole's friend? You need to get to the main bridge, now." "Why? We didn't have plans." "I don't know, man. Cole's sitting on the bridge right where the cops are. He's in the middle of all these beer cans, talking and laughing to himself like a psycho. I'll send you a video." The guy switched to a video call. Finn saw the flashing lights of police cars. They had blocked off one lane of the bridge. Cops were trying to talk to Cole, who was just sitting on the pavement, right in the spot where the girl had jumped, his back to the water. Empty beer cans were scattered around him. He'd look up at the sky and laugh, then lean over to talk to nothing. "Damn it!" Finn grabbed his keys and sped off on his bike. When Finn arrived, he had to push through a small crowd of onlookers and was stopped by an officer. "Whoa, son, this is an active scene. Stay back." "That's my friend," Finn pointed. "Cole, the guy sitting down." The officer looked at Finn, annoyed. "That's your friend? He's drunk, disorderly, and interfering with an investigation. We're about to arrest him. Can you handle him?" Yes, sir. I'm so sorry. I'll get him home right now. Please don't arrest him." The officer sighed. "You have 5 minutes. Get him out of here, or you're both going to the station." Finn walked over, furious. "What the hell is wrong with you, Cole? Drinking alone out here like a freak." He grabbed Cole's chin, forcing him to look up. "It's Finn. Are you wasted?" Cole squinted, then broke into a huge, sloppy grin. "Oh, hey, Finn. Perfect timing. Meet my new girlfriend. Isn't she beautiful?" He slung his arm around the empty air next to him. "She just crawled up from the river to hang out with me. We've been getting to know each other. She's so sweet." Finn heard "crawled up from the river," and his blood ran cold, but he just figured his friend was blackout drunk. "You're wasted. Let's go." "Go where?" Cole laughed. "She said she's going to take me down to the river to play. It's fun down there. Lots of friends. You want to come?" "Let's go now." Cole started to stand up, trying to climb over the railing. "Are you insane?" Finn lunged, tackling Cole back onto the pavement. "Let go! My girlfriend's waiting. Maya's waiting for me." Maya? Finn froze. Oh my God. He didn't hesitate. He punched Cole hard in the face. "Snap out of it, you idiot! You jump, you die!" The punch seemed to daze Cole. Finn didn't wait. He dragged his friend up past the police officer, who just shook his head in disgust, wedged him on his bike, and drove him home. That night, Cole slept at Finn's house. In the middle of the night, Cole started talking in his sleep, puckering his lips, making kissing noises, and licking the air. Maya. Oh, Maya, you're so warm. I love you. Finn stayed awake all night, terrified, watching his friend. The next morning, Finn grilled him. I don't remember anything, Cole said, holding his head. I've been so sleepy the last few days. I just remember hearing someone call my name. Then I just walk out of the house. I don't know how I got to the bridge, Finn asked. Do you know a girl named Maya? Maya? I think I was talking to someone. Her hands were so cold, and she kissed me. Finn knew something was terribly wrong. He ran out and bought the local newspaper. Front page. Body of missing teen recovered from bay. Victim identified as Maya, 16. Police are investigating. The paper detailed the story Finn had witnessed a few days prior. Finn went cold. She really did it. He went back and showed Cole the paper. Do you know this girl? Finn pointed to the picture. Cole looked at the picture and his face turned ashen. Cole, you know her, don't you? What did you hide from me? Cole started to panic. They're not going to arrest me, are they? I didn't push her. I didn't kill her. What are you talking about? And Cole confessed. It turned out that night, after he hung up on Finn, he drove home. But as he got to his house, he felt a pang of guilt. I thought, what if the kid really jumped? Cole said. So I turned my bike around and went back. Just as I was riding up the bridge, I saw her, the girl. She had just climbed over the railing, and she jumped. Cole had watched the entire thing. I saw her hit the water, Cole trembled. She just disappeared. I was so scared. I didn't tell anyone. I just went home. Finn finally understood. The girl, Maya, as she was drowning, the last person she saw was Cole, staring down from the bridge, and when she died, her spirit latched onto him. That's why Cole was being possessed, lured back to the bridge every night. The lonely spirit was looking for the last boyfriend who had watched her die. Finn immediately dragged Cole to church to see the pastor for prayers. Afterward, they went to Maya's funeral. Their parents went with them. They lit candles and apologized to the family. Finn and Cole stood by the casket, begging Maya's spirit to let Cole go. A few days later, they went back to the bridge. The section of railing where Maya had jumped was still covered in yellow police tape and flowers from the town. They stood from a distance and threw their own flowers into the river. After that, Cole was never haunted again. But Finn said, for years, neither of them ever dared to cross that bridge alone at night. What I saw from my bedroom window. When I was a little girl in 3rd grade, back in the 1980s, a big family argument changed everything. My name is Grace. At the time, my family ran a food distribution business in Philadelphia. I don't remember the details, only that there was a bitter fight over money. My grandmother, a very proud woman, became incredibly angry. She decided she was moving out, and she was taking me with her. I loved my parents, but my grandmother was the one who had raised me since I was a baby, since my parents were always busy with the business. We moved into an attic apartment on the top floor of an old brick row house. What was special about the place was the large YMCA community center right across the narrow street. From my bedroom window, I had a perfect view of their yard. During the day, I loved watching the other kids. They practiced martial arts, played basketball, and just ran around having fun. But my grandmother had a very strange rule. She strictly forbade me from looking out that window at night. Grace, you listen to me, she would say. You are not to look over there in the evening. There's nothing good over there for you to see. Whenever I asked why, she would just get evasive, muttering something about spirits, then changing the subject to the night air being bad for my health, Her vague warnings, of course, only made an 8-year-old girl like me more curious. A while later, the YMCA put up a giant cone-shaped tent in their yard for a summer festival. That night, around 11 p.m., after my grandmother and I were both asleep, I was woken up by the sound of laughter and a soft sliding noise. Curious, I broke my grandmother's rule. I crept to the window and peeked outside. Under the yellow glow of the streetlights, I saw a scene that was both playful and bizarre. 4 or 5 children, all wearing very old-fashioned clothes, were using the giant festival tent as a slide. They would somehow climb to the very top of the pointed roof and then slide all the way down, laughing gleefully. I watched them, fascinated, until one of the boys separated from the group. He slid down too, but not on the canvas of the tent. He slid down one of the guy wires that was used to anchor the tent. That specific wire was tied from the top of the tent to the brick wall of our row house, just below my window. The boy slid down the wire, but instead of falling to the ground, he stood up straight and began to walk along the thin cable like a tightrope artist. He slowly made his way toward my window, his face tilted up to look at me, a wide grin splitting his face from ear to ear, his eyes opened unnaturally wide. He walked with perfect balance, his arms just swinging at his sides. When he reached the end of the wire at the wall, I thought he would surely fall. But he didn't. He pressed his hands and feet against the brick wall. And then, like a spider, he began to crawl up. He crawled straight up the vertical wall, his head bent back at an impossible angle so that his eyes never left mine. It was only then that I knew what I was looking at was not human. I let out a terrified scream and slammed the window shut. My grandmother rushed in and threw her arms around me. She didn't ask many questions. She just quietly dragged my bed away from the window, held me close, and whispered prayers until I fell asleep. The next morning, my grandmother took some wire and tied the window shut. "You will not open this again, do you understand?" she said, her voice firm. A few weeks later, on a weekend night, my grandmother and I were walking home late. As we neared our block, we saw a crowd of people and the flashing lights of a police car gathered in front of the YMCA. My grandmother stopped to ask what was going on. People were whispering frantically, "The night guard is dead. It's a gruesome sight." While my grandmother was distracted, I squeezed through the crowd of adults to see for myself. The image of what I saw that night has haunted me for the rest of my life. The security guard was dead on his cot. His body was twisted in a bizarre, contorted position, his mouth wide open in a silent scream, his dead, milky eyes staring at the sky. His shirt was torn open, and his chest and stomach were covered in dozens of tiny, vicious bite marks, as if he had been swarmed by rats. I was so scared I started crying right there. My grandmother heard me, rushed into the crowd and pulled me away, taking me home immediately. That night, she finally told me the truth. She said she had seen the ghost children on their very first days in the apartment. She saw them crawling along the railings and balconies of the YMCA like small animals. That was why she had forbidden me from looking out the window. We later learned that this security guard was the third one to die mysteriously at the center in just a few years. The others had also been found in a similar state. The rumor was that these guards had a habit of getting drunk late at night. and would stand in the yard shouting curses and challenges at the empty, dark building. After the guard's death, my parents managed to convince my grandmother to come back home. The family argument was resolved. We moved out of that apartment immediately, and I never returned to that neighborhood again. Room 44, 4th floor. My name is Alara. This happened a few years ago when I made a decision that many young women do. I left home for love. I had been living in a small town, but after a major fight with my family, I decided to move to the city of Portland, Oregon, to live with my boyfriend, Silas. We were young, with very little money, so we had to find the cheapest place we could. We found a listing on Craigslist, a room for rent in a communal living building. It was a common setup in the city, a multi-story building where each floor was subdivided into small rental rooms. When we arrived, we saw a 5-story brick building that looked clean and relatively new. The ground floor was a packed parking area for scooters and bikes. Everything seemed fine, so we paid the deposit and moved into a room on the 2nd floor. It was only after we moved in that we noticed 2 strange things. First, the landlord had a strict rule. We were allowed to do laundry, but all clothes had to be hung to dry on the rooftop, never inside our room. Second, despite the full parking area, all of the building's tenants seemed to live on the 1st and 2nd floors. The 3rd, 4th, and 5th floors were completely deserted, dark and in a state of decay, with peeling paint and torn wallpaper. About 2 weeks later, the first terrifying incident occurred. That evening, I had to do laundry late. Silas was already fast asleep. I carried the heavy basket of wet clothes up to the rooftop alone. After I finished hanging the laundry and started back down, as I passed the 4th floor, I walked by a room with the number 44 on the door. I suddenly heard a faint creak. I glanced through the half-open door out of curiosity. The room was empty, filled with dust and cobwebs. In the middle of it sat a single old-fashioned child's desk, pink and faded, with a red swivel chair tucked under it. As I watched, the red chair began to slowly turn on its own. It moved with a sickening rhythmic creak, 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 creak. It turned a full 180 degrees to face the doorway, as if an invisible person were sitting in it, watching me. I was so scared I couldn't breathe. I bolted down the stairs and back to my room. I told Silas what I had seen, but he just laughed and said it must have been a draft of wind. 2 weeks later, I had to do laundry at night again. This time, I begged Silas to come with me, but just as we got to the rooftop, his phone rang. A friend was calling him to come downstairs and grab something. He ran off, leaving me alone again. I quickly hung up the last few shirts and hurried after him. But as I ran down the stairs and past room 44, the door, which had been nearly closed, flew wide open with a bang. I froze, my feet feeling as if they were nailed to the floor. I couldn't run. I could only stare into the room. This time, someone was sitting in the red swivel chair. It was a young girl. The chair began to slowly turn toward me again. As it turned, I saw the full horror of her. She was wearing a tattered old nightgown. Her head was bent all the way back, as if her neck were broken, and her long, dark hair cascaded down, obscuring her face. All I could see were 2 glowing red eyes that stared out from the darkness of her hair. They weren't human eyes. They were empty, but they burned with a cold hatred. The door slammed shut. At that moment, I regained control of my body. I screamed and tumbled down the rest of the stairs, bruising my knees on the concrete. After that night, my boyfriend finally believed me. He agreed we had to move out, but we were forced to stay one last night. That night, I clung to Silas, terrified. Around midnight, I felt him gently remove my arm from around him and sit up. "Where are you going?" I asked. He didn't answer. He got out of bed and walked straight toward the door. I called his name and he seemed to startle, as if waking from a dream, before coming back to bed and holding me. An hour later, he removed my arm again. This time, I heard the click of our bedroom door opening. I sat up and saw that Silas was already in the hallway. He wasn't going downstairs, he was going up. I followed him, my heart pounding. "Silas, where are you going? Don't go up there, it's dangerous." He didn't listen. He walked straight up to the 4th floor, to the door of room 44. The door creaked open on its own, and he stepped inside. I was too scared to go any further. I stood on the landing of the stairs, crying out in desperation, "Honey, please don't go in there." I heard the familiar, sickening creak of the swivel chair. Mustering all my courage, I crept up the last few steps, peeking just my head over the edge of the 4th floor landing. I saw Silas sitting in that red chair, and he was sitting in the exact same pose as the ghost. His head was bent all the way back at an impossible angle. His eyes were wide and staring at the ceiling, and he was muttering nonsensical words, a manic grin on his face. I knew my boyfriend was possessed. In a panic, I ran back down and started banging on our neighbors' doors. Thankfully, a middle-aged man and 2 others agreed to help. When we got back up to the 4th floor, Silas had collapsed onto the floor, unconscious. We had to carry him back to our room. The next morning, Silas woke up with no memory of what had happened. He just felt exhausted and drained, as if he had survived a terrible illness. We didn't dare stay another second. That very morning, we packed everything we owned and left that place, never looking back.